The scene opens, and from behind, you see Alex staring out a window. He simply stares. The faint sound of Wii theme music fades in and begins to play in the background. Alex begins to dance slyly to the music as he stares out the window. Yep, that's basically my life. Just me staring out the window with the Wii theme song. Well, good talk. Catch you next month. Walks out. Okay. Yeah, we both know I wasn't going to let you off that easy. Well, what kind of distant overseas friends would I be if I didn't make you read 6,000 words every month that all talk about me? You mutter under your breath. Oh, I don't know. A tolerable, kind, not self-centered friend. I grin. Well, we both know I'm none of those words, so have a seat. Shoves you into the chair. This could take a while. All right, let's start at the beginning. A very good place to start, as I recall some musically inclined actress once said in this really obscure, never heard of movie. After finishing the last live email, I promptly slept. I know, what a beginning, right? You're on the edge of your seat. I can tell. The day after that, I rollerbladed some and sunk a lot of time in my paper on cosmological fine-tuning. You see, I put off this topic for a while because you need to prove fine-tuning. There's a thing, and you can't just argue for that philosophically. You need, like, science, gags. JK, science is great. But it's really annoying to have to take, like, talk to all these, I don't know, it's true because these are, But it's really annoying having to be like, I know this is true because these smart guys said it exists, instead of being able to prove it philosophically. But, what can you do? So yeah, I sunk quite a few hours in that paper, and that was my day. I know, such a plot twist. The next day I had school, and also caught up with some family friends, which was good. It was like 3 or something by the time that we were done, so I spent the rest of my day filing for unemployment. Yay. Doing some short rollerblades, working on that fine-tuning paper, and writing a paper about the distinction between actual and potential infinity. Well, I mean, more like extracting it. I had already basically included everything I wanted to say on the topic in my No Best Possible World theodicy, because I needed to make that distinction in the paper. But I decided that it was best if I gave the actual potential infinity their own little thing, and just have instead of just having a thing in the paper, I just have a reference to it. So yeah, that day was pretty productive. The next day I had school again. I helped Dad with his yard stuff. He decided to put in a patio and grass instead of gravel. So it's been a lot of shoveling. Then me and Grace went for this 8-mile blade to the end of the trail, and that was fairly fun. Here's a picture. Then, during an online Raster Christie session, I listened to a Muslim guy who didn't know hardly any philosophy tell us about his religion, so that was largely a waste of time, and I finally read and took notes on my psychology book into the night. The following day I had more school, woohoo, shoveled more dirt, yay, finished my fine-tuning paper, okay, that was legit exciting, unlike the other things I was really happy to get done, and then I shoveled some sand. And then I did some small editing on my fine-tuning paper to fix the questionable grammar. Unfortunately, hitting the spell check button as fast as you can for 5 minutes does not fix all the errors. The next day consisted of more school, rollerblading. Man, I seem to be doing that a lot lately. And talking with a friend from New Zealand for a bit. I also read a Stanford Encyclopedia article on the moral argument for God's existence. The next morning, I went on a run, scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I got 3.6 miles covered in 32 minutes, so definitely not great. But I wasn't trying to break any records, so I guess it's not horrible. I then finished my schoolwork fairly early, responded to some emails, and read some more of my psychology book. Oh, and then Ben, me, and Mom started watching this movie called American Assassin, but I don't recommend it. Shakes his head. I didn't finish it, but it was questionable. The other thing was this online friend, well, maybe an acquaintance, started freaking out because apparently I accidentally murdered her emotions. I tried to tell her that I meant her no harm, but it turns out that some people don't speak reason. It's not what I said, it's how I said it, apparently. Sputters. Like, how is this supposed to work? Apparently to say, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, in feeling language is to give off a, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings vibe. Throws up his hands. I don't know how to speak vibe. Why can't we just say what we mean? Like, can't we just all agree to speak words and not some weird emotion language? Of course, I say, I don't mean to harm you, and it means, I don't mean to harm you. What else could it mean? Shakes his head. Anyway, I found that encounter quite frustrating. But after trying to use reason for like 2 hours, I finally got through my thick skull to use some emotional intelligence skills. So I stopped arguing with her, waited for the next day to arrive, and then engaged in 30 minutes of pointless small talk. And as annoying as that whole process was, thankfully it did seem to work. And the she-beast is now satiated. So that whole encounter was great. The following day, I read some more of my psychology book, and then helped Dad haul a bunch of stone for the new patio. The other thing that happened that day is Grace finished a bracelet for me. She started like legit a year ago, so here's a picture of that. I think it actually looks pretty cool. I'm using it as a bookmark at the moment. And then last night, the family got together and watched some Emperor's New Groove while eating brownies and milk. I forgot how great that movie is. So many hidden jokes. You totally missed the first few times around. The next day, I finished my psychology book, so that was great. And then I wrote a minimalistic moral argument for God's existence. And then I played a game of Catan with the fam and lost frowns. When the morrow arrived, I worked on school, granted with some substantial breaks until like 5, so that was lame. I then spent a little bit of the day that I had left debating Alan through Discord about an argument for God's existence. The following day consisted of more school. I got to catch up with Sela, which was good, and I also started my second psychology book, Emotional Intelligence. And I rollerbladed some with Grace. We saw a squirrel and gave it a wheat thin. You look at me. Really, Alex? A squirrel? I laughed nervously. Yeah, maybe not quite essential. Anywho, after that, I joined a call where a Mormon guy got mob debated by like 8 Rational Christian people, and I was seriously unimpressed. First, because he handled himself quite well. I was seriously impressed. First, because he handled himself quite well given the odds, and being the subject of mob debating often, I know how hard that can be. And second, because he had some pretty decent responses. The next thing I found odd about the whole encounter was that most of the Rational Christian people walked away thinking they had exposed Mormon stupidity. But honestly, I think he did pretty well. I just find it interesting how apparently skewed, like, bias that took place. I mean, granted, they asked him some pretty hard questions where he gave, the cop-out answer, God. But they seem to forget that Christians do that all the time. Like, we often give that answer. So really, I just found it interesting how differently I and other members of the group perceived that conversation. Lastly, that night, I got to hear about how the quantum... I got to share what I know about the quantum with a New Zealand friend, which was fun. Whatever day came next involved school, reading some more of that new psychology book, working on the yard, and going on a late-night rollerblade around City Park Lake, of which I have a picture, where you can see almost nothing. It was drizzling as I bladed, so when I got back, it was pretty wet. But honestly, playing in the rain is super fun. The only other thing that happened that night is it snowed a ton. The next morning, there was like a foot of snow on the ground, so after finishing my schoolwork, I spent the entire day building this coolest snow fort yet. Check it out. It is actually really cool. It's a castle. You should look at the pictures, but you can't because this is an audio thing. I was pretty happy with it. I mean, I was planning on making the walls a bit higher and possibly hollowing out the center and carving a tower down carving the tower in the center. But by the time I got in the walls to what they were in my picture, my whole body was like, ah! Seriously, like everything hurt. So yeah, I ended up just making it so you could sit on the tower. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I was thinking it would be super cool if I made a second one and then got some friends to do like a snowball fight or something, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. So yeah, I did that, talked to a New Zealand friend, and read some more of my psychology book. The following morning, I got printed my copy of Shadowstone, Pump's Fist. It looks pretty darn cool. Check it out. And yeah, I was super excited to get that in the mail. The rest of the afternoon, I kind of just sat on my snow fort and didn't do much. Then later that evening, we drove up to Wave's cabin and hung out with them for Sam's birthday. When we got there, it was fairly late, and we just played some really complicated Uno. We had a rule every time, every round, so it got pretty crazy. And here's a picture of the sunset from up there. And a picture of my cousins and my bro. And then I proceeded to sleep poorly. Here's a picture of the room. Man, it was like last year, give or take a month, that I was up here last. Kind of trippy to realize I've been writing these for a whole year. Anyway, the next morning, I was awoken and told we were going to go open the gate for Sam and David's girlfriend that were coming up. Okay, I've got to say, what's with everyone dating and getting married? It's like you guys are like falling like flies. Moving on, we went to try and let them in, but it turns out they had gotten lost, so after driving around in Sam's truck for like an hour, we drove back to the cabin and issued a man-woman hunt. So yeah, basically everyone went looking for them, except for me and Ben. We got out of it. And after like 2 hours looking for them, they found them and got them to the cabin. We then proceeded to go sledding down that big hill. Remember, I included a video from way back. That was like 16% fun, but everyone got kind of bored of it, and it developed into a snowball fight. So yeah, then later that afternoon, I played Isla in at least 10 games of chess, which I won, most pretty quickly. But man, she's got determination. I'm pretty sure she felt how I feel when I try and beat Benj in chess. The other thing is that I did some archery on my own until dark. I really like shooting a recurve bow. Seriously, super fun. Oh, and I guess the other thing is I had Mom reading Shadowstone while we were up there in the cabin, and I literally forgot a whole chapter in the copy of the book. Like, you might wonder how, upon reading through an entire manuscript twice to check for grammar errors, I would fail to notice an entire chapter is missing. I wish I knew the answer to that question. But yeah, that was a bummer, since those books cost like a literal $40 to have made. But it did teach me a valuable lesson. Don't suck at editing. So yeah, armed with that valuable lesson, I then spent like the day fixing my novel from when I was 16. I told myself that once I finished a rough draft like 3 years ago that I would edit as soon as I got a feel for school. Yeah, I lied to myself. Other than that, the only other thing that happened that day was eating cake and doing awkward memories of Sam things. Shivers as he recounts the event. And playing Apples to Apples, which I won. That night, I got pretty fantastic sleep, as I was still sleep deprived from the night before. And in the morning, I destroyed in a game of Scrabble. I know. I'm as surprised as anyone. I got like a 197 score with 4 people playing, and I mildly enjoyed it. I think the reason why I didn't fail abysmally is because we had a Scrabble word checker that lets you know if the word, quote unquote, you were trying to place was a thing. So it didn't really matter if you could spell. However, after my stunning victory, I then played again and came in dead last. So probably just luck. After that, I went out to shoot again, and David joined me. We did a competition, and yeah, I lost both times. First, it was vexing because I was doing way better before we started competing. Like, come on, why do you have to do poorly when it matters? And second, he hit the 2 foot by 2 foot target with 3 out of 4 arrows like 55 yards. AKA, he crushed me. I mean, seriously, look how far away this thing was. So far. How? I was happy if I hit with 1 of the 4 arrows. But yeah, despite that fact, I was soundly beat. I had a lot of fun. Then later that afternoon, we drove home, and I concocted a genius plan for my flawed Shadowstone copy. See, the Myers live pretty close. We're all stuck inside, and no doubt pretty bored. And here I had a copy of a book I need to do something with. So I printed out the missing chapter, wrote a letter, and packaged it with the copy, and then under cover of darkness, drove to their house and dropped it off their door. Actually, it was really nice to drive again after like a month. Just, pumping the music as you cruise the dark streets. Not bad. So yeah, my plan worked, at least kinda, because Ben's read it, and he said he liked it. If no one else did, I would say that's a success. Oh, and I guess the other thing that happened that was when I got home, I saw this. My snow castle melted. Like, sure, there's some deep and meaningful message I can draw from this, like all the hard work melting away, Like our works are like snow forts. Beneath the inescapable power of time, they will all melt. Either that or it's just, snow forts melt. Deal with it. So yeah, that was tragic. The only thing I did that night is I stayed up until the wee hours working on my Shadowstone manuscript. The next day I had school and got to roll with Grace, and then I talked to Alan and debated with him through Discord for like 3 hours, which was good. Tuesday, I think, was next, and I had an uncommon and slightly disconcerting lapse in self-control. See, I found these comics called Existential Comics that are all about philosophy, and they are hilarious. I mean, at least they are to me. I showed one to my mom, and she was like, what do you see in these? But I guess you've got to be a philosopher to get it. Here, let me show you one. I include a comic. A tear slips down his cheek. It's so true. So yeah, I found those and literally read philosophy comics and tried to convert my new Shadowstone manuscript into a PDF for 4 solid hours. I did literally no school. And again, slightly disconcerting. I'm capable of being so unproductive. But in my defense, those comics are so good. I then went on a largely pointless walk with some people who Dad said were quote unquote deep, crosses his arms, but I was lied to. It turns out talking about clothes, music, and art for 3 hours is what counts as deep in my dad's book. So I was severely disappointed. Here's a picture of a thing. When we got home, I finally got my modified Shadowstone manuscript to be converted to a PDF, though that was way more complicated than it should have been processed. And I got one of those ordered, as well as another copy in paperback, so this should get here in a few weeks. Other than that, I spent the rest of my day talking to Ratchet people about stuff. The next day I had school, and I called with Neo, and we did an online D&D thing to help me better understand my character. It was long, but really good, and he put a lot of work into our campaign. I then spent the rest of the day in the chair, and I'm now working on fixing up my 16-year-old novel. See, I have this nasty habit of writing in just one super long block of text, and when that block of text is 64 pages, aka 46,000 words, it makes it a nightmare to edit. Thursday, I took 2 grade altering tests, so I hope those went well, and I finished editing my 16-year-old novel. I also asked an online friend to help design the cover, and she said she'd be willing to do it, so I'm super excited to see how that turns out. Other than that, I decided it was about time I went on a run, and because I didn't want to go in the morning, I decided to do it late at night, and here's the course I ran. It was a super awesome run, I've got to say. It ended up being 5.5 miles, and I started off super slow, 12-minute miles or something. But then when I hit this groove, and it was like my legs just carried me, I didn't have to try. Seriously, it was great. But halfway through, I began to pick up the pace until the last mile, and I was probably going a 7-minute miles pace. So yeah, I was just booking it at the end. I only remember one other time that happened to me, and it was in Kansas when I was running on this really long and barren dirt road. If I recall correctly, the run was around 5 miles, and after about 2.5 miles, I turned and started coming back. But yeah, while I did hit my stride, and it felt great, I remember the more significant reason I booked it home was because as the night fell, there were 1,000 mosquitoes all swarming me. So yeah, I had incentive to run. Anyway, I did the thing in 57 minutes overall, so I ran an average of 10-minute miles, which certainly isn't fast, but it's still probably the best run I've done in a year. Though that could be in part due to the fact that it's my first run I've done in the year. Anyway, it was super great. All this point, my body's complaining very, very much. And then it became today. Today I've spent writing this life email, as well as helping Dad with the artwork and stuff. Oh, but the really cool thing is I got money from the government because I filed for unemployment, and I got $700, so that's sweet. The ironic thing is I'm actually getting paid more from being unemployed than I normally make, so that's odd. But yeah, that's what's been happening in my life. Thanks for reading, and I'll catch you guys sometime soon.